So we're going to start today with a discussion with two unbelievably extraordinary women about the intersection of climate and security on a global scale. Please join me in welcoming Mirian Vilela and come ladies and Svitlana. Mirian Vilela is Executive Director of the Earth Charter International Secretariat and the Center for Education for Sustainable Development. Great, thanks. Try not to trip over my water bottle. Mirian has been working with the, thank you. Mirian has been working with the Earth Charter Initiative for about 30 years. She coordinates the UNESCO Chair on Education for Sustainable Development. I could go on with her. Each of these women, by the way, that we're going to talk to today, have bios that would fill this room. So I'm just going to kind of be brief, but you should look them up. Svitlana Krakovska is a top climate scientist in Ukraine and heads the Ukrainian delegation to the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. She was named one of the top scientists in the world by Nature magazine in 2022. If you have questions, or have a seat, ladies. If you have questions, write them down. If we have time for a question or two, we'll let you know. But we may not. Your questions matter, though, and you can ask them at lunch or during the solution circles. So we do want to know, or during the reception. One more quick housekeeping item. I am the time police. Okay, so if I have to cut people off to stay on time, and you have a problem with that, get over it. Okay? Ready? Okay. Thank you, ladies, for being here. So, Mirian, I want to start with, you've been sitting at the table with global leaders. What are the security issues? What are the issues that they're talking about at these tables? What do they bring up as the primary challenges that they're facing at these tables?
I'm not so sure if everyone that is really sitting at the global stage in intergovernmental negotiations understands the issue of security from the angle of human security. There is sometimes a lot of talk and focus on state security, and I think we need to talk more and look more into human security that should supersede state security. What does human security means? I mean, to understand that, we need to look at the basic human needs, starting with air, water, preferably clean water, clean air. Without air and water, we cannot survive. Without air, water, and food, we cannot survive, right? So that's a basic human needs. And if we extend the list, we go to clothes, shelter, education, access to healthcare. So these are basic human needs, not necessarily state needs. And with the increase in climate change is certainly, without any doubt, increasing the levels of drought everywhere, flooding, forest fires. So with all these climate change events that's happening across the world, with more flooding, more flooding, droughts and etc., will inevitably affect our access to water, our basic needs, right? Water and food and etc. So I'm not so sure, I actually would question whether current global leaders or governmental leaders are aware of that. So I think that we are facing a major issue here with a lack of ecological literacy and a lack of ethical literacy. So I think everywhere across the world, northeast, southwest, we have a number of leaders, not only at the governmental side, but also business sides, that are ethically and ecologically illiterate.
Oof.
And that's a big issue.
Let's sit with that for a minute, right? Thank you. How does that show up? How does being ethically and frankly environmentally illiterate show up in these conversations?
Well, when you have short-sightedness to make decisions, when you don't put enough funding and international collaboration. That's a way that it shows up, right? For over 30 years, the international community came around the 92 Earth Summit and agreed upon a UN framework for addressing climate change. So it was the multilateral response to address climate change. And in those days, there was already, in the Climate Change Convention framework, there were already identified 5 pillars to collectively address climate change.
That's what became the Paris Accord.
Which was clearly identified that we need to collaboratively, across borders and areas of knowledge, address climate change through mitigation, adaptation, new technologies, capacity building, and finance. So it's already written over 30 years ago. It's already agreed upon. So environment or ecologically illiterate and ethically illiterate leaders is when you don't see that and you continue to drive a nation or drive an institution. You continue to drive and walk around the world with
blinders.
Blinders
on. Wow.
And therefore, I think we have the majority of world leaders in not only driving nations at the governmental level, but also at the institutional level, that reflect that blindness of an ecologically and ethically illiterate leaders. And this happens because there is obviously a vacuum.
Right.
A vacuum in our education systems that are not addressing that. So we have more and more PhDs and MBAs and people with a lot of formal education driving or making a lot of decisions at national, local, national, international levels without some basic knowledge about what it really means human security.
Without the values backbone.
Yeah, so there is sort of mindset that climate change is just an environmental issue. It's for environmental people who care for environment. Here we are looking at business and economy and make bigger decisions without looking at it through a lens that sees the reality, which is the interconnectedness of all these social and environmental challenges.
Without nature, you have nothing, right? Thank you for that. I could talk to her for about 7 hours about what she just said, right? But I'm the time police. I'm not going to do that. Svitlana, thank you for being here. Thank you for making the journey. By the way, this is her first trip to the United States. And we're privileged that it's for us. So I'm going to touch on the third rail here because that's kind of what I do. You've talked about the Ukraine war as being a fossil fuel war. Tell us why you say that and what that means.
Okay, first of all, thank you for inviting me for this incredible event. I really appreciate and a really great honor for me to be on this panel, on this Women Earth Day, actually summit on Earth Day. And I feel actually responsibility on my shoulders that today I am talking as woman from Ukraine and as scientist now. Yeah. So you ask me as a scientist at the moment, who was at this intergovernmental panel actually session during the start of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. So it was online meeting, and late in the night we finalized our work. I was co-chairing one of the group. And in 2 hours later, I just woke up with a missile attack, with bombing in my native city, Kyiv. So I recognize myself in this role as a head of delegation on UN panel, and I'm supposed to speak there. But from other point of view, intergovernmental panel on climate change is not political body. It's policy relevant, but not policy prescriptive. So I didn't want to undermine this body with some political messages. That's why I spoke actually exactly on climate topic. That's why actually I spoke on this climate crisis, and that climate crisis has roots in fossil fuels. But at the same time, fossil fuels, they fund this Russian invasion to Ukraine. So it means this is fossil fuel war. So this is war, actually, which is, how to say? Well, it's just funded by these fossil fuels. So if we will actually fight against fossil fuel dependency, our overall actually dependency on fossil fuels, in the same way we will fight against climate change. So that's why I said it's fossil fuel war. Well, it became viral. I didn't expect it. I spoke from my heart, just what I was thinking about. And it became viral. It went really very high. I found myself on Washington Post with President Biden said, President Zelensky said, and climatologists from Ukraine said. So then people just recognized it. For me, it was just obvious, this cause chain, let's say. But for people, it was not. And then I've got a lot of interviews, and I decided to fight against Russian invasion in this way. So it's my front line.
Can you just explain why you say that the war was started about fossil fuel?
Well, it's clear, because Russian economy stands on fossil fuel. They actually got money. Over 50% of their actually income comes from fossil fuel. And actually, if you go to, well, from the first day, there is an initiative which calls CREA. You can go there. It's about Russian invasion, and you can see online how much money goes to Russia from which country. So you can clearly see that actually every day Russia got something like 1 billion, almost 800 million every day. So, and then we speak about money, about Ukraine, need to pay something in return. Well, don't pay Russia, and war will stop. That's our message, actually. So it was my message. So if we will stop our dependency, these petro-dictators will not harm the world, and in climate crisis as well. Well, if I may, actually, just to continue on the security issue, because recently, on the third anniversary of this full-scale invasion, I was again at the panel of IPCC, and then there we were approving outlines of future report, and there was there is a chapter on fragility. And I insisted to put the conflict places, because people in conflict places, they're actually vulnerable not only to climate crisis, so it's again multiplier, so it's about security. And then one country said, okay, it's a security problem, we discuss it in other place. I said, no, come on, it's people in this war zone, we still have people there. And they are much more vulnerable, and so we put it. So I really get victory, let's say.
Wow, thank you. Incredible, right? Mirian, you're focused on education, and one of the things that you touched on a bit ago, and you and I spoke about, is you're not just educating school kids, you're educating leaders and adults and people like in this room. So what's the ideal? What do you think they should learn? What do you really want them to learn, and what do you think they need to be educated about specifically? And how would you do it?
Well, that has been at the core of much of the work we have been doing.
Yes, that's why I asked you.
In 2012, we established a UNESCO chair on education for sustainable development to engage, empower, and educate young leaders about these issues. But also to prepare educators from primary school, secondary school, higher education, to figure out how to infuse these in whatever discipline they're working on. but also involves engaging and empowering business officials. So what do we need to learn, which is your question? All of us. I think it's first to expand and deepen our planetary consciousness.
What does that mean?
To understand that, yes, I cherish where I come from, where I live, and my culture, but I live in a planet, Earth.
Our common home.
Our common home. And whatever is done across the ocean, or north, east, southwest, we are interdependent. It means that there are ripple effects. And with that, with that planetary consciousness that we need to expand and deepen, we need to understand a deep sense of responsibility and care in how we should be concerned with the short, mid, and long-term consequences of the decisions we make, independently of the level where we are, right? We make decisions every day, from going to the supermarket, deciding what we are eating, deciding what we are buying, deciding how we are treating one another as humans, deciding how we are treating animals. And every decision we make as individuals or as institutions, as a society, these decisions generate an impact. An impact on what? Not just on humans that are currently alive, across cultures, across nations, but an impact on future generations. And an impact, as the Earthchart articulates, on the community of life, like in the non-human world. So just having that consciousness, it's, I think, the first step that we all need to embed in our mindset. It's a planetary consciousness, which, by the way, when I look at what the Brazilian government is, among the many things the Brazilian government, as the current president of COP30, is calling for, is one thing is they are calling for a new planetary renaissance. What does a new planetary renaissance mean? It's a new mindset, a planetary mindset. That it means that I think there is a misconception that when we look at things through the lens of a planet, we are giving the back on our local context, on our culture. This is a misconception of what planetary mindset means, right? So anyway, just to come back to your question, what do we think we all need to learn? First is to expand and deepen our planetary consciousness and a deep sense of our ethical responsibility with the well-being of humans, not only the humans that are currently alive, humans across cultures and nations, the well-being of humans with regards to the impact of my decisions, right, as an individual, as an institution, but also humans that are not here yet.
Right, future generations.
Future generations, yeah. What are our moral, ethical obligations in making sure future generations also have access to clean water,
right,
fertile soil for
right,
healthy foods, and etc.
Right. Fortunately, we have some young people in the audience today who are going to help us do that, right? So, Svitlana, on the other delicate subject to talk about that I think we really need to remind people of is war has a climate impact too. Excuse me, I'm having auditory issues here. But war has a climate impact as well. So, Svitlana, talk about what impact on the climate and on the planet is the result of this horrendous war in Ukraine by Russia.
Well, thank you for this question, actually, and I more than agree with Miriam about consciousness, and actually it gave me some other message to the world too, because I was thinking about this war again, and I saw these buildings destroyed, but I was worrying more about people. and about nature, about environment actually, because we want to live our country, but we want this country be livable, in fact. So I was thinking like, why we do this, why they do this actually with us, and why we do this with nature, why they do this with us. And then after all, I found this answer. Maybe it's, we speak like we and nature, but it's we are nature. If we will think that
we are nature,
we part of nature, we will not harm ourselves. So this is real change of mind, in fact. And well, again, about environment, we have, from very first days, our NGOs actually, they start to count all harm which actually made to our environment, because environment is just silent victim as well of the war. Well, the biggest known now it's the destruction of our Kakhovka dam, which actually caused a lot of harm to, well, it's, we still don't know how many people actually died due to this flooding. We just saw dead fish, dead animals. Well, it's huge disaster. You even cannot imagine, actually. We don't know how much harm, and we cannot actually count on it. From other point of view, if we speak about climate, before it was big water body, which actually make evaporation and clouds for big part of Ukraine, which actually is the driest part. And now they will not have rain there because they will not have clouds. They not have this big body. So it's really impact on climate change. Well, we have another direct impact. It's emission, of course. It's emission from fossil fuel again, which fuel this military actually. So it's the biggest. And if we count now for 3 years, it's 230 millions of ton equivalent of CO2, of the dioxide, of carbon dioxide. 230
tons.
Million.
230 million tons of CO2 emitted from this war.
Yeah, and it's actually equivalent of annual emissions of 4 European countries, such as Austria, Czech Republic, Hungary, and Slovakia combined. Or it's 120 millions of just diesel cars. So it's huge, again, impact on our common carbon budget. So we speak about climate system. Our climate system, it doesn't know about some borders. I mean, some countries. It doesn't care. So all it goes in our common atmosphere, and we have our common carbon budget before we will go over 1.5 or 2 degrees. So actually, it's and the most actually I don't know. Well, sorry, I'm really stressed. This accumulated stress with this, but I should say that we really have increased impact in last year from wildfires, landscape fires, because of dry situation in this part, which impacted by this destruction of Kakhovka dam. So I mean, it goes, circle by circle.
Right, it's a vicious cycle.
But we have its direct impact, but we have indirect impact, which, on my opinion, even more, because other countries now, they don't feel safe, and they start to to produce weapons. They put funds from climate adaptation and mitigation measures to weaponization. So we again put our business for security, of course, but why?
Right, yeah. So just think about that for a minute, right? When you're hearing coverage of the war, think about that impact too. So I want to end the last few minutes on a positive note. Mirian, I want to talk about COP30 for a minute. And Mirian, you mentioned COP30. So what do you want to take away from COP30? What do you hope that COP30, which is in Brazil, in a few months. What do you hope is accomplished? What do you expect will be accomplished? Maybe a kind of a wish list as well as a reality check?
Well, that's a big question. I don't have all the answers, but I know that the world has been working around understanding climate change for over 30 years. So the answers are there. Policies are in place at the international level, right? From the 92 UN framework on climate change to the 2015 Paris Agreement, and now this COP is, as you well know, is quite important. So I think if the world would just look at what is there and work on action and implementation, we don't need to create new policies.
We've got it.
We have the knowledge, we have the policies at the international level. It's there. I wish, well, the Brazilian government has also called months ago in an open letter for on COP30 on the importance of a new industrial revolution that this time should be climate conscious. A new industrial revolution that should be climate conscious. So they are calling on that, but it's already there. I mean, technology, which involves climate revolution, it's there in all these international agreements. So again, what we need is awareness raising and action and implementation of what's already there. The Brazilian government has also called for this planetary renaissance, which is a call for a new mindset that invites us to move away from fragmentation and short-sightedness to a vision that is long-term and more of integration, that really looks at the interdependence and interconnectedness of our challenges. And my wish list is for all of us to embrace this new vision. And just lastly, the Brazilian government has also asked for a new ethical global ethical stocktake. And they are going around inviting people to help clarify what are the ethical implications of climate change. And my wish list is that this flourishes and comes across borders and areas of knowledge, and this deep sense of common but differentiated responsibility is embedded everywhere.
It's integrated. Mm-hmm. So, Svitlana, take us home here in this session. Talk about, one of the things that I'm intrigued about the work that you're doing is you're looking to rebuild Ukraine in a sustainable way. So talk about the good things that are happening in the rebuild to achieve that goal, please.
Yeah, well, again, as I said, I saw these buildings, and we don't care about those buildings which destroyed, because we can build better. So this is our message, and it's a message from our president as well. So we all our society actually support this climate resilient renaissance, again, in Ukraine. So we want to be a role model for other places which were destroyed either by man-made disaster or natural disaster. So there are many, unfortunately, such places in the world, but Ukraine can be a role model for this. And just to say again that in the first day of this full-scale invasion, we were all united, all. I mean, who supported the president, who not, who were, in different ways, but we were all united. So if we will all united against this climate crisis, we can win. And I said that we not surrender in Ukraine, and I hope the world will not surrender to fight climate change, and we will win all together.
Thank you so much. Yeah. We have about a minute for one question. Who has a burning question for these unbelievable women? Come on, you're all smart cookies in this room. Because we're there, right? Okay. So we're closing out now. I can't believe that you're not raising your hand. I'll forgive you for that. I am there we go. One of the few men in the room raises his hand among a room of women. I mean, come on, guys. Go for it.
I love your message. I've been putting this out there almost for as long as I've been on this journey. But my question is, what
Mirian, yeah.
just said, we know what we need to do, but we're not, as Mirian
It's all right. Just talk. Go ahead. We're out of time.
As Mirian knows, or just said, we know what we need to do, but we're not doing it. Now, if women don't step up and make this happen, it ain't ever going to happen, thanks to my white gender leadership. So there is a process out there that gets us beyond thinking, researching, and planning into doing. It's called strategic doing. I'm from the state of Iowa. We have trained all of our community colleges on this because it moves us from talking into doing.
Okay,
so
let's
join
move
you.
from talk to doing. Thank you. Thank you, Mirian. Thank you, Svitlana. And thank you, most importantly, for the work that you do every day and for being here. Thank you so much.